Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. All things Middle Earth here with the video talking about who you should pair with your starting commanders. We made videos talking about Gimli, Arwen, and Eomer, as well as Faramir, because those are the starting commanders for each of the three factions in Season 1. So if you're a brand new player, you have some combination of what you see on the screen right here. But that really still leaves two other open spots for you to fill out. We did talk about Legolas a little bit because within the first week, the game will give you Legolas, assuming you do kind of the just basic starting quests, no spending. Just I think after 6 days you get Legolas. So you'll really look like this. Is this viable? Can you use this? Who else should you be plugging in? All that good stuff. We're going to look at some options here for you today that you can plug in to make this a workable army for you. Now, if you're on the evil side, if you're in season 2, or maybe you did an earlier season 1 that had some other options, we do have some evil side stuff coming very soon. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you're subscribed. And we'll also be looking at tier 2 stuff in the future. Right now, we're really just going to focus on the good side on tier 1 because that's really what's going to be available to you first in this first season. So stay tuned. A detailed guide on how to build your armies coming up shortly. And if you are new around here, or maybe you just don't pay attention during the intro, we do have a top-up link. It is linked down in the description below. If you are spending in the game, this is an affiliate link. You can use this the same way you'd purchase things in the game by entering in your UID and your server right in this box above my head. You do that, it logs you in, and you can make purchases just like you would in game. It is cheaper in some parts of the world, so if you've not used it and you are spending, at least check it out and see if you can save some money. But it is an affiliate link. Like I said, it does support the channel. I get a small kickback, so it allows me to keep doing what I'm doing here. So it would be greatly appreciated. Seriously, this is definitely a huge reason that I can keep doing this with Rise War, with all the different things going on. So appreciate it if you guys are doing that. If you're not spending, obviously, no sweat, but just wanted to make sure you guys were aware of this. Now, like I said, your roster should look something like this starting out. If you started in Gondor, you're going to have Eomer, you're going to have Faramir, and then after that 6-day mark, you're going to have Legolas. If you're in Lothlorien, you're going to have the same last two, but you're going to have Arwen, and then same thing down for Erebor, we're going to have Gimli instead of these first two. So you're going to have one of these 3 setups within the first 6 days. Likely within those first 6 days, you're probably going to pull or unlock some other commanders, but I want to help point you guys in the right direction. Again, not relying on crazy luck to happen. You need to know who to kind of slowly start working on to get a viable or as viable of an option as you can. Now, I hope it goes without saying, but if you are starting out, we're kind of figuring out what's workable right now, what makes sense, what's not a bad setup. If you run into someone who is spending a lot of money, they have a whaled out account, they're running the meta with all gold gear, these combinations with the gear you're starting with are not going to beat them. It's just not how this game works, but it is going to make a big difference if you're playing and using the right combinations against players who are just kind of running whatever they have and not really paying attention. So it will give you an advantage, but always bear in mind, this isn't going to, take on people who have spent $10,000. That's just kind of silly. Now, first up, we need to define what kind of combination of damage and support commanders we want to have in this lineup, because that's kind of what is the meta right now. It is damage commanders. So we talked about Eomer being a physical damage commander. Faramir, Legolas is one. We haven't talked about him yet. We'll be doing him very shortly. But Gimli is also a physical damage commander. And we talked about Arwen being a support, kind of a support hybrid damage is what we did for her build. So we kind of need to identify what everyone is and what combination of those commanders we want. And the kind of rule of thumb I like to do is I like to have anywhere between 3 damage and 1 support, or 2 damage and 2 support. And that could even go with a half point. So it could be 2.5 damage with 1.5 support, which I'll show you what I mean. I've got examples for each of these. And again, they can be kind of mix and match. So please feel free to kind of pull from any of these and comment down below if you guys have other combinations that work for you or you think make sense. These are just the things that I put together. So like I said up at the top, you can see here, it says goal equals approximately 2.5 damage with 1.5 support. And that could go a little bit up, like a half point up on each or a half point down. So here we have them labeled. We have in Gondor, just as the example, this is who you're going to start with. So you have 3 damage dealers in Gondor. In Lothlorien, you're going to start here. You also have the support damage and then 2 damage. So this is like half a support and 2.5 damage technically. And then these are 3 damage down here in Erebor as well, because you have the full damage here. And when I'm talking about, half and full, what I mean by that, I want to show you guys really quickly. So for example, when I say full damage, I mean that's all they're doing is damage. So with Eomer, like we talked about, he's running this ability and this ability, both are physical damage abilities. That's what Eomer's doing. It's the same thing with Gimli. They are full damage guys. So they would count as like 1 damage point. Now, someone like Arwen, she has a damage skill running right here, as well as a support skill. So she'd be like half a point of each of them if that's how you're running her. There are also other commanders like Gandalf the White and Sauron, and some we're going to look at today. So this is just more of an example, but some commanders like Sauron who have 2 skills you run, that are both support. So this would be a full support commander. Again, there are also combinations with Sauron and Gandalf, whatever. But the point is there are combinations of full support, full damage, and somewhere in between, and we want to piece those together like a puzzle. So with this, the first commander I want to look at is going to be Boromir. Now, Boromir can be run a couple of different ways, but what we're going to look at for his kit is a full support build. And so that's going to be the Horn of Gondor. It says attack of 3 allied formations, plus 18 for 1 round. Unit attack plus 5, and this affects all 4 formations. Now, again, that attack we're talking about, it's this attack that inflicts, it increases your ability to inflict physical damage. So he's going to support the Gimlis, he's going to support the Eomers, the Faramir's, the Legolases, anyone that says physical damage. This is going to make that attack number go up for them. The next ability is his R3. This is Warden. It says 3 allied formations units gain a 45% chance to evade damage taken from the first up to 5 hits. And then I'm blocking it, but it says unit HP plus 10%. So we talk about this will be another support ability, but we also talk about how we like our units to be nice and tanky, have lots of health. So 10% health on our units is not a bad thing. So if we're looking at a full support build for Boromir, it's going to be Horn of Gondor with Warden. Now, he does also have a damage skill, so you could also run some combination of a hybrid support damage build with him to kind of complete your puzzle. But for this example, we're going to use him as a full support. Another commander or commanders we're going to look at is Merry and Pippin. Now, Merry and Pippin have this ability right here. It's called War Chant. At the max level, it says attack of 3 allied formations plus 30, decreasing by 1/4 each round, and it's going to affect all formations. Again, this is that attack number for physical damage, so it's going to increase that temporarily, but at the start, it's going to get things ramped up. Their second ability, the R5, is going to be Planter Scryer. It says there is a 25% chance to succumb to madness for 1 round, which means they have a chance to attack their own team. But damage received by 2 allied formations, negative 10% for the next 2 instances of damage, modified by their command stat. And then if you level it up all the way, they become immune to madness. So it basically just becomes they're reducing the damage that their allies are taking by 10%, which is going to be modified by their command, which is this number right here. So the higher their command number, the more that's going to modify for them. So again, 2 support abilities. We're looking at them as a full support, 1 point of support for a commander. So as you can see right here, if we plug just those 2 guys in, again, tier 1 commanders, we can see a few different examples. And again, you can mix and match whatever makes sense for you with whoever else you have. But up here, you can see for Gondor, we have our starting 2 damage commanders. And I went ahead and took Faramir out of this because compared to the tier 2s, the tier 1 damage commander is not going to do quite as well. So in this example, I have taken Faramir out of this lineup, and I have added Boromir and Merry as 2 supports, or Merry and Pippin. So in this thing, we have 2 damage and 2 support in the Gondor lineup. For Lothlorien, we have the starting 3, the exact same. We've added Merry and Pippin as a full support. So we have a hybrid support damage, 2 damage, and full support. So in this one, we have 2.5 damage to 1.5 support. And at the very bottom, we have the starting 3, the exact same as well. We have Gimli, Legolas, and Faramir. And then we have Boromir as the full support in this lineup. So 3 damage to 1 support. Now, there is a sweet spot. Some people will say it's 2 to 2. Some people like 3 to 1. I think the right answer is kind of in the middle, 2.5 to 1.5. It just depends on what you have going on. But again, you could swap Merry and Boromir around in any of these lineups. For example, the Loth and Erebor ones could just be swapped support-wise if you like one more than the other. And anyone that's damaged can also be interchanged. So maybe you don't want to use Faramir here. Maybe you actually get a different damage commander that you want to use. Or maybe you want to run a 2 support, 2 damage build if you're in this bottom lineup. You could just also look to get Merry and Pippin down here as well. But again, the whole point is just to show you guys that this is how you kind of put together cohesive lineups, cohesive armies that actually work together. These guys are doing damage. These guys are supporting it. We got damage, we got support. It's kind of the whole thing, but there's just different levels of what the damage and support. So whatever you can kind of put together, this is going to be a very, very good start. Now, if you're wondering about other good options, because you might want to fill in some other options or work on some other commanders, again, just talking about tier 1s, Hirgon is actually a very, very good option. He's got a lot of flexibility as well. Hirgon has a physical ability here as well as another physical damage, so he could be a full damage commander. He also has the same Warden ability, so he could also be a hybrid damage and support. So he's got some versatility. It'd be great to bring into your lineup as a tier 1. Eowyn can also be used as a full damage. She has Swordmaster, which deals physical damage, as well as Durnhelm, which is another physical damage ability. Shield Maiden does give her extra defense for her allied formations, so kind of similar to what Arwen's doing. So it's actually not a bad ability. So there could definitely be some hybrid support damage or extra points you could just go up here. But Eowyn can be a viable option as well. And last but not least is Dwalin. Dwalin, I think, might be the best tier 1 damage dealer. He has the same 2 skills that a lot of other, like Gimli has, for example. He just doesn't have the same R5. But Durin's Blood is one of the better damage skills in the game, and Experienced Warriors are also fantastic. So just running those 2 damage skills with him, starting with Durin's Blood, then going Experienced Warrior, just like we did with Gimli, he can be another really good standalone full damage. So maybe you want to replace Faramir or just get someone in here. He is a great option. But again, the whole point is you can take any of those commanders we talked about and put together some combinations like this, ideally multiple combinations that you can get put together and have a couple of running armies. Now, a quick note on gear, especially if you're starting out. My suggestion to everyone is that you share gear amongst your commanders. It is a little annoying. I will not kid you. I do it on mine. Again, I'm on the gold side. I've been playing for a long time and spinning, but I really have one good set of gear for one army, and I use them until their stamina is out, and then I move it to another army. So for me, let's say, for example, I'm using Lurtz in one of my lineups. I have my physical damage gear on there. Like you can see, I'm going to use him with his combination, his army setup. Once the stamina is depleted, at least enough, I can take his gear off and switch it to someone like Gimli, for example. Again, both physical damage dealers, both sharing the same types of gear, both liking the same types of sets. So it all works out like that. So again, that's kind of the further away picture. But if you're using, let's say, Eomer and you have physical gear on him, and after that army's done, you could then move that gear to a Hirgon, to a Dwalin, to a Boromir, to Eowyn, whoever it is, as long as they're all doing the same physical damage type things. But let me know what you guys think. As always, again, these are just my suggestions for what you could do to put together some armies. Let me know if you think there are other commanders that could be plugged in. And yes, like I said, we're gonna be looking at tier 2 commanders soon. We'll be looking at evil commanders, tier 1 and 2 as well. And if you guys would like specific guides dedicated to a specific character like Boromir, Merry and Pippin, Hirgon, whoever it is, comment that down below, because if you guys want one, I'll put together more guides and templates for kind of the cheat sheets for these different characters. For now, it's just a really quick reference to show you, now that you're starting to have 3 or 4 commanders, who actually should go with them, what makes the most sense. And again, we've talked a lot about troops, so I'll kind of just say it here. On all of these setups that are running here, there's really no specific troops requirements that really matter that much. So I would just be running Guardians on every single one of these commanders. It's cheap, it's very effective, they have high HP, they have high defense. So I'd be running these commanders in these kind of combinations with all Guardians. But again, let me know what you guys think. This will do it for this video, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.